Inferno Men, igniting a culture of evangelization that empowers men to lead in the battle for sainthood. Come join Levi, Devyn, Josh, and John as we engage into the fire.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Into the Fire, an Inferno Men's podcast, where every day we battle for sainthood and we strive to live the Great Commission, bringing God to men and men to God. I am your host, Levi, and joining me, as always, we have the panel, Devyn, Josh, and John. And I will never not say it like that.
We need to get that endorsement going for the ice cream.
Yeah, if you're listening.
We make our own
Josh,
John and Josh's.
There you go. That'll work.
Only Devyn and John.
All right, so last week, if you were joining us last week, you would know that we talked and we did a deep dive into the mission statement of Inferno. You guys remember that?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Got it.
So we're not going to do that this time, but we are still going to talk about what I like to call the mystique of Inferno, kind of the mission, the driving force behind it. After the mission statement come the pillars. And the pillars, the three pillars of Inferno, are prayer, evangelization, and friendship. And we're going to talk about those here in a minute, but first I'd like to talk about these 5 P's, P like Paul, that John was so gracious to.
Oh, you're going to give me credit? Okay.
Yeah, yes, you get all the credit.
I get credit, or the blame, whichever it is.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
And then I think, reading through them, I think they really tie well into the pillars. And so at any moment we can talk about any of these 5 or any of the 3 pillars as we go through this conversation. But I do want to start with protector.
All right. Well, let's tell them how these came up first. So
Let's do it.
We have these 5 P's. So I was listening to a podcast, and these gentlemen were talking about masculinity and the male today in our culture and in our church. And so I listened to that about halfway through, and I said, okay, stop. We all have too much going on in our world. Let's just stop and actually think for a minute. So I gave some meditation time, and I wrote, what do I think a man today should be? And I wrote 3 things, and they all were with the letter P, and I'm like, let's just keep going with it. And so, yeah, one of the first ones that came out, as you said, is the protector. And what does that mean in today's society? What did it mean way back when, and therefore, how do we live it out today?
So I'll read that. Thanks. So I'll read all 5, and then we'll dive into each of them. So the first is protector. At least I'll read them as you wrote them. Protector, provider, praiser, persuader, and passionate. And obviously this is not an exhaustive list, but I think it is a comprehensive list in the sense that as long as you are trying and striving to live these 5 P's, you're off to a good start.
Protector came to me as the idea of, here's the thing, in today's society, we can come up with all kinds of definitions, and we've had that discussion of what's the definition of masculinity and does it change with our culture, but I kind of went back to the idea of the Bible, right? I mean, God's word, as long as we're following that, we're going to be okay. And, when God made Adam and Eve, he had Adam, and he said, basically, I'm entrusting the garden to you. I'm entrusting that you are going to have dominion over everything that's in it, and you are going to protect it and care for it, and I'm also giving you Eve, and you're going to protect and care for her. So the idea of the protection I feel that it's very natural in our substance. What's a natural inclination that we have? And I think God gave us that natural inclination is to protect the ones that we love and the people that are around us.
I think that's. I think it's kind of dual faceted in that sense. It's protect ourselves and protect others. At least that's the way I took it. Protect yourself, meaning from the attacks, the external forces that are trying to bring us down and trying to pull us away from focusing on our mission as men. Whether husband, father, brother, and in two senses, protecting, because I think when you hear the word, I'm a protector of my family, you think physical protection, right? Like Right, owning a gun,
Where's the
making
bat?
sure nobody, yeah.
Where's the golf
Where's
club?
my machete next to my bed? I mean, that's what you think
You have
of.
a machete?
Yeah, no, a small bat.
No, it's what
Yeah,
I got.
it's about,
A little one.
but it's a small bat. So, I think that that's important, right? We can't take away from the physical aspect of being a protector of our family or a spouse if you don't have kids, but the other aspect, which arguably might be more important, would be the spiritual protection. Guarding the souls of those, guarding our own soul and guarding the souls of those we are entrusted or who are entrusted to us. And I think in my own life, it's my kids, and ultimately getting them to heaven, and then also my spouse. I need to get my spouse to heaven, and that I think is more important, and I think it's harder too, in a certain sense. I don't know what you guys think, Josh and Devyn, but I would say that it's harder. Maybe you don't.
Which part is harder?
I would say that the spiritual aspect. It's
Protecting
harder than the physical.
family from spiritual attack?
Yes.
I think I think in a certain sense it's going to be harder because it's not as obvious. Whereas a physical attack, if someone's physically attacking your family, you're just, well, no, that's not going to happen, excuse me. You're going to stand in front, you're going to fight back, you're going to protect them. The spiritual attacks that will attack the family, specifically the nuclear family, is something we can't see, but something that is obviously around our family. The spiritual world is constantly surrounding each of our families. And we have the protection of our guardian angels, but at the same time, there is also the forces of evil that are trying to infiltrate into the family, separate the family, sow division, to make everyone at each other's throats. So yeah, you're right, that is a little more difficult because it's not as easy to see or perceive in that sense. And I think that we as men, we like to be able to know what we're confronting and fight that thing directly because we can see it. When something is not obvious, it's a little more disconcerting.
And you can't know your enemy, right? It's a
Right.
little harder. I think it all comes down to ability on both fronts. I think they're both very, very important, but like you said, the defending your family or protecting your family from the spiritual side is definitely a lot harder because you don't always know.
And we talked about that a little last time, right? With the idea of what comes into your household, what movies you watch,
Yeah.
What your
There you
kids
go.
are exposed to,
Mhm.
what music you listen to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, we like funny movies and we like things that maybe are a little rude, crude humor, but then again, hey, who's listening in the back seat,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to be
It's
careful.
like, well, watch that radio dial.
Yep.
That presence is important, I think,
Yep.
too. Just the presence to be there won't have the ability to protect if the presence isn't there anyway.
Yeah.
Your presence.
It's only the way to protect.
Well, maybe this is the last point, but you touched on it, Devyn. You said you have to know your enemy, and Josh too. You said you have to be able to see it. Who are we protecting against? I think it's so important to know who you're fighting, who your opponent is. I mean, think about football teams. They study the other team, boxers. They study their opponent's moves and the way that they jab. And you have to know them so well in order to defeat them. And so when we know that who the enemy is, we will be able not only to defeat them, but we will be able to, almost in a sense,
Counter them.
Yes, like that's the word. That's the word.
Yeah.
Counter them.
So how are you saying we do that? How do we know?
That's the good question.
I know, I think I have an answer.
Please.
Well, the answer is you have to read the Bible. You have to read God's Word, and He has it all explained in there about who you side with. You have to do a deep dive. You can't just do a superfluous look at the Bible or the readings for that week. Maybe you should be studying what's going up for that week's readings and be prepared so that when you hear it, you can talk to your kids about it, and you guys can discuss it beforehand, or even if it's just the 10 minutes before you get to Mass. Jeff Cavins has a daily reflection that we often listen to on our way into Mass, and you know what? If you hear the gospel twice, only the better.
And on that point, it's very interesting. I think a couple of years ago at this point, believe his Father Nate was talking, and he always brings up with the family, there's the aspect of the dad being the head of the family, and he goes, and that could be sometimes when you're on the way to church, you're just gonna put the gospel on in the car as you're driving to church, and everybody has to listen to it. And you're dad, and you just have to listen to it. And so that's a good way to kind of begin that day and begin preparing yourselves for Mass.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you're the driver.
Yeah, well,
Because the driver always has control.
exactly,
That's right.
exactly,
Get that.
right.
I think we have a lot of gifts, especially within the Catholic Church as well. Oh my goodness. This thing is.
Fumble, but that's all right.
We have the gift of the saints as well, right? When we're looking towards spiritual battle, we have a lot of the readings and the lessons that they've learned or have left behind as well as some examples to kind of take from too. I think studying your enemy is very, very important as well. Just like you said, like when you're boxing or before you're fighting, you're trying to watch how your opponent typically operates so you can find ways in. They're doing the same thing to us all the time. They know us way better than we
That's a
know
good
ourselves.
point.
Yeah, they're studying us, yeah,
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So I think it's important to at least read or listen to people that are familiar with doing spiritual battle as well, so we can learn how they operate, how they work, what are the ways in that they do take or that they still continue to take to this day.
So I think that to sum that up, God is there for us, and we don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely.
For all of these keys as we go on.
Mhm.
There, I do want to touch real quick. You mentioned that last episode as well, the communion of saints.
Mhm.
And I don't think we give that enough credit. There are so many examples out there for us to follow, and oftentimes we're tempted with the pride of the temptation of pride. I can do this alone. I'm good enough.
Mhm.
I can fight by myself. And the enemy's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
I got this. You know, you're done. So yeah, the communion of saints I think is so important. We overlook it so much. Moving into the next point, the second point here on the list, provider. It's similar in the sense of providing what? Protection. But if we dive deeper, because again, the first time you hear the word provider, what do you think? Financial. Yeah, everything's financially. We're obviously not talking about that. That is an important part of being men, living in a real world, having real people, then real bills that we have to pay. But what are we providing to them, again, above and beyond the material world? What are we providing to our families spiritually?
Hopefully a home of faith, like a house that is full of faith and of teachings of the church, teachings of the gospel. Those are ultimate. Spiritually, that's what I know I try to do as a provider. So I'm more than just providing this is a place to live, here's food to eat, here's a bed to sleep in. It's going to be, well, here's a place to live, food to eat, bed to sleep in, but also here's a family that loves you. Here's a family that's there for you. Here is a family that follows the teachings of the church. Here's a family that is faithful to each other, to God. Here's a family that goes to church every Sunday. Not just because we go to church every Sunday, because we want to be there. That's a big thing right now with my little guy, is just trying to get him to understand. He's only 3, he'll be 4, but to get him to understand, this is a regular occurrence. You may not want to go, I'm sorry, but this is a regular occurrence. And my older ones, they actually, it got to a point where they didn't like it at the very beginning, and now it's become part of it's Sunday or Saturday night, depending. When it's time to go to church.
Yeah.
That's just is what it is. That's what we're doing now. And so it is. It's that, but it is a constant work, and if there's constant work and there's a constant me constantly having to be patient with the younger ones, going, this is just what it is. It's time to go to church, and eventually, hopefully, we can go like, no, this is why. Because right now, I can try to explain to them why, and then it's going to be really theological and what have you. They're going to be like, I could be doing something else for the next hour,
Right.
kind of thing. So
Like,
spiritually, I think that's what it is.
What do you guys think about that? I mean, I don't have children, but but what do you think about providing in terms of being a good example for your children?
Oh, for sure.
Right, because I feel like that should be a large part of it as well. But I want to get your guys' opinion on it, because
That's
it's probably hard, because what kind of example? I mean,
well,
every
that's
child's
that's
different,
just
so
it.
what
Yeah.
kind of example?
And I'm not the best example all the time.
Yeah.
We get impatient,
nobody is.
right?
I don't think.
But so I think that is a big thing. If you can have that mentality before you have kids, like, oh, I need to be an example, and you can start by being an example to those around you, then that'll make it when you have children, like, oh, I need to be that example to those around me, to my children.
And do you get like active feedback from that too? Like, do you notice something that like your children will do and you're like, oh, I do that and I shouldn't do that
Yep.
because they're
And it's
Yeah.
good and bad.
Yeah.
They do the good and bad. I mean,
No, for sure.
I don't know if I brought it up last time with my little guy, I'm working in the kitchen, I spilled a glass of milk or something, right, and I'm crying over it because we had spilled milk. But I'll say something like, oh, you piece of crap. It's, right? It's just a piece of junk like that, and then the little guy, like he's playing, one of his guys does something, he goes, oh, piece of crap. It's like, oh, that's a bad example, that's a bad example.
More is caught
Yeah.
than taught.
Yes, more is
They
caught than
say.
taught.
I love that you brought that up,
Yes.
Devyn, about, so it's not just
Very true.
financial, it's about all the other things, like Josh said, there's so many, you can enumerate all the things that you're providing, right? And there are some things that, both a husband and wife can provide at the same time, but there are some things specifically that the man really is looked upon to provide, and a lot of that has to do with that leadership, as I think you had a statistic not that long ago, talking about when guys become Catholic, and how many of the family will convert as well versus when women become Catholic, and it's a much lesser number of the family that continues to convert after that. So I mean, there is definitely a role that biologically and by the grace of God that we're given, but that responsibility, right, comes with that great power.
Oh.
With great power. I know. I was trying to say the word without saying.
Okay.
But with great, no. Isn't that Stan Lee or something like
Uncle
that?
Ben.
Uncle Ben.
Uncle
Thanks,
Ben.
Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man, that's right.
OG Spider-Man,
That's right.
This providing thing real quick, so this can be looked at in two ways as well, because to the point that we were all making, we provide both a positive influence and a negative influence. That's the thing, especially for our kids. The kids will pick up on if we're constantly frustrated or impatient or angry. They will pick up on if we approach a situation and go, okay, take a breath, how do we fix it?
Right.
If my kid spills something, if I go in there yelling and screaming and like, what are you doing? You're dropping plates, or if I go in there and go, oh, let's go get a broom, let's clean this up. They're going to see that, and they're going to naturally start responding that way to their problems and the different difficulties that they deal with each other, with us as parents. So it is interesting. And so that provider, we need to make sure we're providing the positive and providing the good, and not the impatient, the frustrated, the angry.
Yeah. What we serve on the platter, they will eat.
Well
That was
said.
good.
Well
That was right
said.
off the cuff.
All right, on that note, thank you for watching.
Drop it.
The only thing, the last point I would want to make on this is talking about going back to the more is caught than taught. I heard somewhere that the best way to teach your children how to be good people, upstanding, how to love, how to treat others with respect, is letting them see how you treat your spouse. And that's it. It's not saying, I mean, yes, that's important too, but it's they see that you actually love and you are giving yourself to your spouse. And that's the best way to teach them, because they see it in action.
Well, to your point, my wife always tells my boys, I have 4 boys, and she always tells the boys, if you're going to look at somebody to marry, you go and see how they treat their mother.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so all of you
And
guys out
John's just
there.
full of them today. Full of the one-liners.
We should just step back and let John.
We should go home.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome to the John Grow Show.
Okay, now the third point on this list we're gonna hit is praiser, which I don't know if that's a word.
I don't, when I'm writing these down, the alliterations were going on,
That's a word.
praiser,
but
but
it's
who are we supposed to praise? We're supposed to praise God.
and it makes sense. It fits. I think it fits. Praiser of God. We give God His due worship. Obviously we are created beings. He is our creator. He deserves all the worship, and only Him. But who else should we praise? And I think this is the kind of twisting it a little bit in a good sense. Praiser of your family.
Yeah.
What were you thinking about when you?
Well, no, exactly that. Well, you know what, I have have to think about my faults. One of my biggest faults is not giving enough praise to my own kids and to my family and letting them know, that I support them, that I'm there. My father was very reserved, as it were, when it came to that kind of stuff. But out in the community, he was very well respected. And I think I've followed that to the extent that I am very conscious of what I'm doing out in the community, and I sometimes forget about what has to happen in my own four walls. So when I wrote that, I definitely thought, well, this is what my kids need, this is what I need to give my wife, and I just fail in that sometimes. So I guess it was a call to action for myself, not only to be a better praiser of God, but to give affirmation to the ones in my household.
So it's like positive reinforcement,
Yeah,
in a sense.
it is. I mean, I definitely use the stick more than I use the carrot. And that's to my fault, and sometimes to my detriment. But so that's when I was writing it. It was really a call to action. I'm getting better about going to mass on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and doing my through Inferno Men. Doing the pledge, doing the prayer each morning, and things like that. But I've kind of forgot the other half of it. I've kind of not been as good praising throughout my family.
This isn't a public confession, John.
Okay,
That's enough.
all right.
The idea of praise, I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned about speaking and telling the kids that they're doing well at something, telling your children you're doing it. My boys they're 6 and 3, and when I say, oh, good job about something, they built a Lego set, they come up to me, and Brendan, my 4-year-old, puts 15 Duplos together into something. He goes, look, it's a house. And you're like, good job, buddy. And he wants to hear good job. I know it doesn't look like a house. But in his mind, it does. And so, if I praise them and say, good job, bud, that's great. Then for my girls, as they get older, especially my 14-year-old, who's very 14, love her to death. But she's also at a point where she needs to hear me complimenting her and praising her more than criticizing and critiquing her. Because right now it's really easy to critique her because she's acting 14 and she's becoming a young adult or a youth, I guess, before they're a young adult. But to that point, that idea of consciously praising them, consciously telling them I love them, consciously telling them that they're doing a good job, I think is going to go really far. Really far.
I agree.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of, it's interesting that you say that. I came from a household that was, very, felt like I would never have praise for what's expected. You know what I mean? So it was very you had to feel I think between all my siblings, we had to go above and beyond to even that's a good job. My family's very if it's expected of you, then
that's just
you do it.
you do it. It's
Yeah.
responsibility. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I think myself and my brothers, we were all always trying to be overachievers for everything to kind of
To finally
I need
get
praise.
that good job.
I think
why?
it was
Why? Because you wanted to praise the
of
parents.
course I wanted my dad
Right,
to be
that's what it
good
goes back
job.
to, is
I knew you could do it.
Yeah.
Something that was
They're
Yeah,
vying
next level.
for praise.
yeah, interesting.
I think the word, at least when I was thinking at this point, is confidence. Building confidence
Yes.
back into your family.
Good one.
And then if we take that a step further, why? Because a strong family can then change the world. To take a huge leap.
You've got a bunch of families.
If you got it, no, another thing too is kind of thinking in your situation, Devyn, not without having kids yet, you also need to praise your wife.
Mhm.
And the word that I was
Yes.
thinking about was gratitude. Thanking them for things that they do.
Yeah.
I was listening to a Matt Walsh podcast, and he was saying that gratitude can make or break your marriage. And he said it takes nothing, it costs nothing to say thank you. And there are so many things that we take for granted. And I'm actually working on this in my own life, especially now that my wife's pregnant, so it's harder for her to do things. But she still maintains the house clean. And I'm always impressed. But I don't always say thank you. But I'm trying to consciously, when I get home from work, I'm going to be is the living room clean? Is the kitchen clean? I know it wasn't when I left. I know it is now. My 2-year-old definitely didn't do it. So it's got to be my wife. And so I'm trying to thank you for cleaning the dishes. Thanks for doing the laundry. Thanks for vacuuming the floor.
Yeah.
And it costs nothing. And then the other point, and you guys can comment on this, but the other point I wanted to mention was telling our kids, at least I'm trying this, telling my kids I'm proud of them. And not, because that for me, it's super easy to be like, oh, good job, and then just walk away. But it actually, the word I'm proud of you means something to them, at least for coming from me. It means a little bit more than just saying good job. It's what you did, I am proud of you. It's not that just somebody thinks you did a good job. It's I personally, as your dad, am proud that you did this thing and you accomplished something.
Kids desire praise.
Yeah.
Right.
They have it's an innate little desire to, oh, dad is proud of me. Dad wants to, dad sees what I did and he's happy
It's a great
about what I
feeling.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm somewhere in between because, I have that household you described.
Mhm.
Like, if you're expected to do something, I'm not gonna praise you. I think I'm more on that side, and then I hear what you're saying, and I don't think I'm, either direction is the right way. I mean, somewhere in the middle of
Right.
that, because I don't wanna give praise just to give praise. But
Right.
at the same
That's a valid
time,
point, no, that's a valid point,
Yeah.
yeah.
there's a lot of people out there who are gonna
'Cause
say,
then,
yeah,
then,
I mean,
then
that's
it becomes
just.
worthless,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then the praising becomes worthless. If you're praising for everything,
Right.
That's
took
true,
the
that
first,
isn't
took
really
5
praise.
steps, good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
You
I
walked
told my
upstairs.
boys that I'm proud of them, I really reserve that phrase, that specific phrase.
Yeah,
And then they know, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Does
okay, that's pretty cool.
but does that maybe the amount of praise decreases because the action is now greater? So if like for my little guys, if I say they want to hear, I'm proud of you, right? At the very beginning, because it's something they want to hear, but then as they get older, I mean, if Andrew is 15 and brings me a Duplos of 15 Duplos, it's like, dude, what are you doing? I know you're gonna build like, so
So that's a good
saying-
point, it could be age dependent.
Yeah, good age dependent, the amount of praise that we give.
I think it also depends on the difficulty of the task that they accomplished.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because for example, right now, my daughter's learning phonics. And so anytime she either reads, one of those simple Bob books, or she finishes a chapter in her phonics book, that's when I say, I'm proud of you. Because she was struggling, she's getting better now, but, and I'm not saying it as often now, but when I would get home and, Daddy, I finished a whole chapter in my phonics book, oh, I'm proud of you, kid. But now it's reserving the I'm proud of you for harder things.
and I think it's just to your point. So it's just, when they start and they're younger, you want to kind of get that into their head that, oh, Dad will, if I do what I'm supposed to do, or if I accomplish something, I tell Dad's going to be excited.
Yeah.
Right? Then as they get older, they do greater things, and then again.
It should progress like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, there is a negative, I think, I just thought of this.
So,
Oh my goodness. There is a negative, I think, to the only being praised when, like, within a household when something is exceptional, right? For example, I remember, I think I was probably 3 or 4 years, probably my 3rd or 4th year in the Army. We were out in the field, we were training, and there was somebody that never really helped out at all, even like with the bare minimum of what was expected. And they went out, and did our job once. And when they came back, they got all these awards and this and these other things. And I remember sitting there being so salty. Just like, are you serious? We all do that every single day, but because this one person, and it really kind of takes away from, because everybody kind of evolves at different levels, right? They kind of get into things. In the military, it's still wrong, right? Everybody's kind of got to be at the same standard. But, as you guys were talking about that, I just thought, I was like, man, I was so angry for years. For years, it's like, how could that be a thing,
no, and I guess that
wrong.
goes to John's point. I mean, it comes to a point where I guess praise has to be earned. Almost
Well,
when the kids get
Yes.
older, they have to earn. They can't. I'm not
but
sure
again, I think it has to do with your age thing.
Yeah,
So,
It's the
But they did,
it's the
I mean-
participation trophy. You don't want to give.
well, when you're a baby, you,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
that's just it,
you,
yeah.
you moved your arm, hey, all right,
Right,
you smile, hey, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's
I guess
it's
the
logical.
bar is
Yeah.
higher and higher.
Right,
You gotta meet them where they're at,
Yeah,
probably, right?
yeah.
Because everybody's at different.
So
Hey, you got off the couch, woohoo! Go get a job, woohoo!
exactly.
That's
You gotta-
exactly. Good job, yay.
By a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Good provider. Yay.
You're out of my basement after 40 years. Okay, so the next point, I think we've thoroughly talked about praiser. The next point is persuader.
Yeah, You want to know what I was thinking?
I'm
the
not sure.
first thing I
Yeah,
thought of
like-
was, there's a Jack Reacher book called Persuader, that's really good, that's the first thing I thought of.
Oh, okay.
Persuader is a shotgun. Anyway, go ahead, talk about what you're talking about.
No, I mean, okay, so words have power. This podcast has power, just because it's using words. You know, we get out there. So each and every one of us affects somebody, whether we like it or not. Not only by our actions, but by our words. So words can be very powerful. And when we misuse words, that can have a detrimental effect. But what I was talking about with Praiser is, you know, it kind of goes back to what we talked about, is showing that you can give tribute to God and bringing the family along. We already kind of discussed that going to church. But really using your opportunity to pray and do that not only in the silence of your own room or in your own thoughts, but also being a good example to show others. So, you know, getting out there and persuading being a good leader, really, in your community and in your church. So, you know, if you see something that needs to be done, maybe you're going to round up 3 or 4 guys in the church to say, hey, we need to start doing this. And getting them and using your own abilities and your own oratory ability to make that happen. So that's where it came from.
An example. Being an example to those around you. Eventually they're going to ask you, I suppose, depending if you're being an example of a good Christian, they're eventually going to ask you, well, why are you so happy here? What does this mean?
Isn't that what it says in the Bible? They should know us by our love,
Yep.
right? So,
I think even just speaking about like what a man's role is in a family, a leader, right? All leadership is a form of persuasion. Exactly what leadership
Yeah.
is. Right?
I want what you're doing. I want to do what you're doing.
Exactly.
Right? So it's from your actions and your words, but really that's the whole point of the persuading.
I want to focus on the word aspect of it, because usually when you talk about persuading someone, it's like you think about a debate. And I'm trying to get, you know, or you're in front of a crowd and you're trying to get them to do something or buy something.
To believe you,
Right, to believe you. And so there's an aspect of communication. And when I thought of Persuader, I was thinking of what are you communicating? The what aspect. Because it's so easy, like you said, words have power both negatively and positively. And so we have to be very conscientious that we are communicating the truth to other people, and in a convincing way. Because if somebody is eloquent and they're saying something that's false, the people who are listening might be more convinced than somebody who's speaking the truth, but in a bad way,
Absolutely.
or in a poor way.
So it's important to know, to watch your words and to use them effectively.
Right, yeah, and that's so hard nowadays.
Especially, well, it's a question of relativity.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
So not the theory of relativity.
That's a big bang.
Relativism, like relativism, because it's what your truth is, might be your truth, or my truth is my truth.
Objective versus subjective reality.
Exactly, so
Right.
and if we're not, so if someone's communicating their truth, which is not the truth, well, people might be, oh, that was very convincing.
And we have so much power now with the
Yep.
internet.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to be, we talked about it in one of the other episodes about the anonymity of the internet.
Yes.
And it's so easy to be a troll. You know what? God's maybe not asking you to be a troll. Maybe he's asking you to do something.
God's not asking you to be
Not asking you to be a troll.
Kidding.
And look at our wonderful Congress. I mean, how many of the congressmen are?
Watch where you're stepping.
How many congressmen are eloquent in speech but are saying nothing?
Yeah,
Absolutely
that's a good
saying nothing.
Trent Horn calls those deepities a bunch of big words that mean absolutely
Yes.
nothing.
I think they've been doing that forever.
I
right?
know.
I mean,
No, that's
since
kind of like
Caesar. Since Caesar.
Right, nothing
Yeah,
new.
so,
Right.
Since the first caveman said, "Follow me."
But they're
Yeah.
persuading people
Yeah.
by their speech.
Right.
Where are they persuading them to?
Yeah.
Off the edge of a
Where
cliff?
they take it. Exactly, that's
So
exactly
thanks.
right.
Okay.
Levi, like you
Exactly.
said, the what, right? And I think it comes down to the what has to be the truth, right? If it's not universally applicable, then it's not the truth.
Right.
So therefore, it's going to do more harm than good.
Yep.
Looking over these at first, Persuader was probably the hardest one for me to kind of
Yeah.
conceptualize, but now it's making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And good on you.
Yay.
Putting that in there.
All
That's
right.
very important.
Yeah,
For
All
sure.
right, well done.
good on you.
Well done.
Persuader is a word.
Yes. Before we get to the last point, I want to say something, otherwise I'm going to forget it. All of us have to have some type of internalization of all of these points before we can pass them on or before we can effectively change or affect people in our life. You can't give what you don't have. So it's so important for us to live these in our daily life and not just, again, like we said last episode, you can't fake it till you make it. That's not happening. That doesn't work. People will see right through.
Be very transparent.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're just BSing your way along, you think that people are following you because you're so charismatic. No.
Congress.
Nope.
That's enough.
All right, you found me.
Sorry.
I have to get off the panel. I'm just a big phony.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're a spy. All right.
He's revoking his,
So the last point is passionate, and all I put here on my notes was passionate about something, because I think that passion speaks for itself.
Why did you put passion on there?
I put passion because all I could think of the apathy that is rampant in our culture. Simple as that. It was really, you need to be passionate about something. We are volunteers on this podcast. We are passionate about being here. Tim is passionate about making sure it looks good. And, the Inferno men overall, the organization is passionate about bringing God to men and men to God, right? And so we have to be passionate about something, because if you have a passion, you will therefore take action.
Yeah.
And that's really what we need to do. It's the lack of passion. It's so easy. Here's the thing. Men, we talk about men being masculine and going out and doing things, right? Well, the more that we have allowed other people to do things for us, the easier it is just to sit back and not be passionate about it.
That's
It's
right.
like, yeah, go ahead. You want to do that? I have 4 sisters, okay? My sisters did just about everything. I was the youngest of 6 kids. And my sisters did all the cleaning, all the cooking, in addition, of course, to my mother. But, as the kid, mom would come in and say, clean your room or clean this and that. I'm like, yeah, I'll get to that. My sisters would get so upset, they'd come in and do it for me. Because they didn't want mom to get upset. Did I think about that? Not as a kid. No, I was like, yeah, great. I'm just going to, if I keep my hands off, somebody else will do it. So that, unfortunately, was a bad example for me to just go ahead and continue to be that way in my early years. And I'm hoping to change that now. My wife would say, early years? No. Anyway, that is...
So you're still not passionate about cleaning.
I'm still not. You know what? Joe, when I paid the money for a Kirby vacuum one year, I became passionate about using that Kirby. Man. I love vacuuming. I love shampooing carpet. I'm right there, man.
But is it the vacuum or is it the cleaning that you become passionate about?
Unfortunately, just the vacuum.
Yeah.
Well, the passion thing is because if you are dispassionate as well, that's going to roll over into how your kids interact in their lives. So if they see you constantly doing the minimal around the house and just kind of letting things just flow, they're going to think, oh, this is the normal way of life, and so therefore I'm going to do this stuff too.
Wow.
You were on 24/7 as a leader,
Yeah.
as a man. You are being looked at. I mean, as everybody, to be honest. But as we talked about the differentiation for men, we are on 24/7. You don't get a chance to really take a break. And
It's for your spouse, it's not just for kids. It's just the same thing. As if you're dispassionate, your spouse is going to notice that as well, and so that's going to be another possible rift in the relationship.
I think we will, throughout our life, we will have multiple passions as well, and I think we have to be passionate about the right things, because it bleeds into everything else, right? If we're not passionate about one of these, our children, our spouses, other people will pick up on that, which will affect our ability to persuade, our ability to praise, our ability for everything else on here, honestly. Passion is very important, so I mean, it's ultimately what we're passionate about. I think it means that, at least like my own definition of passion is like moving towards like that desired outcome for any specific passion, right? Like somebody's passionate about playing guitar, they're not there to, they're passionate about getting to that end state. What do they want to be by the end of that?
Yeah.
I think every passion is its own trial, as long as we're moving, as long as it's a good one, I guess.
No, I was about to say, it depends, I mean, you need to be passionate about something that is good for yourself and for your family.
Absolutely.
Because you can be passionate about detrimental things. I can be passionate about eating.
That's true.
Yeah, you could be passionate about playing too many video games.
Yeah.
I love video games.
Yeah, me too.
And I've had to pull back because in the evening, that's my wife and my time. but it's also my time to play video games.
Mhm.
And so I've really stepped back from that over the past years, like, you know what, no, I need to spend this time with my wife,
Yeah.
doing something at night.
I love how you guys have all intertwined all of these pieces. Now, that's something I didn't necessarily think of when I wrote them up, but you know, you guys have really gone to the point of saying one is interconnected to the
But
other.
that's what I'm saying, this passion, even though this is interesting on our list here, it says the least written about it, it is the one thing that ties it in. If you're passionate about your family, you'll be a protector. If you're passionate about your family, you'll be a provider, a praiser, a persuader. Those are things. The passion is almost like the underlying, if you look at it. And there's everything that's built on it.
I think all of these, I mean,
Even the one that's
you
not a
don't
word.
need to. But all of these, like if you remove one of these, it's gonna affect every single
Yeah.
other one,
Yeah.
right?
It sounds like the Holy Spirit, John.
Yeah.
Sounds like it
That's what,
was.
that's what it sounds
Thank
like.
you,
Now,
Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So passionate, the only thing I want to say about passionate is there is a certain attraction, not physical, but there's a certain, people are drawn to somebody who is passionate about something. And that is not something that you can fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Passion has to be something lived. And as a sub point, the thing you're passionate about has to be worth your time.
Yep.
Because otherwise you will lose steam.
Yep.
And you'll just run out of any energy to do it. When it's 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, midnight, and you're passionate about something, you're gonna do it anyway, if you're tired. Because it means something to you. And that's why being passionate about our faith, our religion, about God in our life, about raising a good family, about leading a good life, those are things that are worth our time.
I think those pillars are going to allow us this passion. What a great segue, Levi. Let's talk about those pillars.
Sorry.
Okay.
On that note, no, that's great because that's awesome.
Back to you.
So the three pillars of Inferno, and then we'll have to wrap up here. But the three pillars of Inferno we want to talk about, and I think again they all intertwine. These three pillars intertwine with the 5 P's that we were just talking about: prayer, friendship, and evangelization. So prayer, as the first pillar that's listed here, is it's a sine qua non. You can't live without it. Prayer is absolutely something that you need in your life, and therefore you have to be passionate about, again, your prayer life, your life with your interior life, your grace, and prayer is the way that you keep it. You can't.
But, if I could interject here real quick.
You may.
So, but with prayer, it's important also to note that that doesn't mean if you don't have a prayer life that you instantly have to go read the Summa Theologica.
You don't?
No.
You have to be able to pronounce it.
You pronounced it right?
Yeah, I did.
I know.
I pronounced it correctly.
I can't.
Oh, he's asking for
I'm
himself.
envious.
Insofar as, so the meaning that you just need to start. So the pillar of prayer, and I think that's what was the fundamental thing to the founding of Inferno, is that we started with, can I do 5 minutes of prayer a day? And I think that's the important. If you can start there and then become passionate about doing those 5 minutes, then the 5 will become 10, the 10 will become 20, the 20 will become 30. And I think, and then there's so many guys that do up to an hour of prayer every day. I don't do that. I'm not there yet. But just starting small, that begins, if you have the passions in starting small, then you will continue. It doesn't mean, that you have to go from 0 to 100. You can start slowly and then work your way through that. But it's the passion of actually, I need this to be part of my life.
Right,
Yes.
and we got the pledge, and down here on our paper, we've got ACTS, A-C-T-S, right? And I think for anybody that's struggling with how to pray, right, you can just have verbal communication in your head with God, and make it a conversation. You can have the rote prayers that we use, but you can also, you get a little guidance from this. ACTS stands for adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and then supplication. If you just go through those 4
Very simple.
areas in your mind, you've already taken up 10 minutes easy.
Yep.
You know what? And you'll come that much closer to God in those 10 minutes.
I think another point too about prayer specifically is that prayer is not getting distracted.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a lot of people think, oh, I just get distracted all the time, or after 3 minutes of trying to pray, and so I just stop because whatever, I'm not praying well.
Saint Therese,
False. Yeah.
Saint Therese of Lisieux, she would fall asleep during prayers.
Yep.
And she's like, well, if the divine physician wants me to go to sleep, I'm just going to go to sleep. It's like so simple.
Yeah, that
So
helped me.
simple, yeah.
I had a big issue with that too, because
Yeah.
I would always just fall asleep while I'm praying,
Yep.
right? And then I remember Googling, like, why is this happening? And then,
You Googled it?
I did, yeah. I Googled it, and then that's how I found St. Teresa
Yeah.
of Lisieux.
There you go.
And
That's
it was
awesome.
like,
And
she
just
said it's very peaceful to
be
fall asleep in
present.
prayer.
Yep.
I was like, well, that's interesting.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
just being, that's why like during adoration, sometimes just being in the presence, not thinking anything, not saying anything in your head, just being there.
Silence is
So
present.
Levi and I can relate to this when we were in seminary,
Mhm.
and we started every morning with an hour of meditation. Very rarely, of my 4 years that I was in the seminary, was that hour fully conscious with God. It was more like 15 minutes. I would get distracted, but the point was that it was a daily thing.
Mhm. You still did it.
And I still did it.
You still got more
right?
time
Yep.
praying by committing to
Yeah,
that hour
exactly.
than you would have.
And there were times where I fell asleep. I mean, it was, you're supposed to be, you know, either kneeling the whole entire time or standing,
Mhm.
and I would just get lazy and sometimes I would sit down.
Like now.
Yeah, or just, I would
Yeah,
start
because
to fall asleep.
you're
Yeah,
in your room.
yeah, you're
Oh,
by yourself.
you're by yourself
Yeah, you're by
in
yourself
your
and you're in
Oh,
your,
so it takes some integrity as
exactly,
well.
yeah.
Responsibility.
It really did, and it was, but it was just that there was that constant doing it. So even you could be in the most perfect, I was trying to say, you're in the most perfect environment to pray is a seminary,
Yeah.
and still,
Mhm.
it's going to be a struggle, it's going to be hard.
Okay, yeah. And like we said last episode too, talking about sainthood, it's not about praying perfectly, it's about trying to pray.
Oh, yeah.
It's about the effort that counts. Which leads us then into the second point, friendship. We could talk so much about friendship, Catholic men forming strong bonds with other Catholic men, building each other up. And that leads, and we'll talk about these 2 points together, friendship and evangelization, because they kind of go hand in hand. You know, the Great Commission to evangelize others, but you can't evangelize people you don't know. Right? You can't, so,
I would.
oh, can you?
I would.
You
I mean,
can,
You cannot.
But you will be
I
most
agree.
effective if you win their hearts first.
Because-
Why has focus been so
Yes.
effective, right? Fellowship of Catholic University students, and they go out and they're on campus and they win the hearts of their contemporaries because they're out doing activities with them and supporting them and affirming them. So, you know, that's how it is.
I stand corrected. No,
no. It's both. Because you are who you hang out with,
Mhm.
or you become who you hang out with, right? And so, in that sense, I guess I'm talking about a deeper evangelization. Obviously, we can give good examples at work, or you know, people that just see us in public praying before meals at a restaurant, that type of thing. That's a form of evangelization.
Mhm.
But the actual bringing someone down into the knowledge, or up, I guess, into the knowledge of God, you know, it takes almost like a human element first, and then they trust you, and then they want to spend time with you, and then that, you know, St. Thomas, everything is learned through the senses first, right? And then the spiritual comes. You know, man is both matter and form, right? And so we got to start with the senses, and then it goes to the soul, and the raising up men to God and God to men again. So,
You've come full circle.
Wow,
God
all
to
right.
man and God to God. That's a great way to end it.
all right, so on that, that's it. That's all we got for today. We could have spent a lot more time on this, but we have a special episode next time. We're going to be interviewing, John is going to be leading an interview with
Keenan Robinson.
who?
Well, you'll have to.
All
tune
right,
in to
there
find
you
out.
go. Join us
Who's
next
Keenan
time.
Robinson?
In the meantime, keep stoking the fire, as Devyn said, which I think is great. Keep stoking that fire, and we'll see you next time. God bless. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Take care.
God bless.